Big news! After a year of building, we finally took our mini truck camper on its maiden voyage. For our first trip, we took a ferry from our home in Okinawa, Japan to nearby Izena Island. This is a nearby remote island of about 1,500 people who rarely sees tourists and whose culture is centered around nature. In our 2 years of living here, it's definitely been one of our favorite weekend trips, so we're super stoked to do a recap just so you can also experience this tropical paradise. Our trip started early Saturday morning and we had to drive from our home about an hour north to Unten Port. This ferry leaves twice a day. Each ferry takes about 55 minutes one way. We did make reservations a day prior. This was all done over the phone through Google Translate. Once we got there, we realized there was plenty of room, so we probably would have been fine without a reservation, but as most things in Japan go, a reservation's almost always encouraged. The round trip cost for the car, a driver, and a passenger was about 160,000 yen, which is just over $100 round trip for both of us. Once you pull your car on board, you're invited to walk upstairs and sit down. They have seating inside and outside. We spent a good bit of time outside just taking in the views and the nice blue waters. One thing that's interesting is that these ferries really are the lifeblood of these islands. This is how they get everything in that they need to survive day to day. So you'll see once you pull your car in, you'll be right next to connexes full of their groceries, full of mail, and really everything that the people need on this island to survive that they can't grow or make right there. Once we arrived, we drove about 3 minutes down the road and found a nice little spot to pull over. When we first got there, there were 3 older ladies sitting down under the shade structure eating lunch, and we noticed this was a very common trend. Most everywhere we went with a nice overlook, there was almost guaranteed to be a local sitting there taking in the view just as much as we were. We let Pocket out and let her roam. We realized this was probably the first time she's been not on Okinawa Island itself. She seemed really excited, obviously. We did a little bit of beach combing and found this massive cuttlefish bone. Then after taking in the views, we drove a little bit farther down the road and found this awesome campsite. It was right on this gorgeous beach, but not too close to where the waves would be too loud and where we were living in the sand. It really was a perfect campsite. So we decided, instead of rushing around and doing anything else, to take some time, set up camp, practiced our slacklining a little bit, and just take in the awesome day, the beautiful shade that was there, and the stunning views. After relaxing for a little bit, we decided to go on a little hike. The first spot we stopped at was this beautiful overlook that we could see from our campsite. And then we continued on up the road to check out Izena Castle and climb the peak directly behind it. All along the bottom there were little hermit crabs scurrying throughout the jungle, which were super cute. Trek itself to the top was pretty serious. There was some gnarly little cliffs, and we got nervous about Pocket scampering along those, so we didn't continue all the way up to the top, but it was still a beautiful view. After that, we backtracked a little bit and checked out a couple more overlooks, one of which were right on the ocean. And from this viewpoint, we could also see a family of 4 sea turtles swimming around in the ocean, which was stunning. From there, we continued on into Izena Forest Park to check out some of the views from there. On our way there, we could even get a peek at our campsite and at Pocket, who we left behind because she was feeling a little tired after the first stretch. And then this was God's rock seat, which was stunning. A bunch of rocks perched right on the edge. It was right around sunset, so we have a stellar view and got some awesome pictures. This is what it looked like from the bottom, just to give you a little bit of perspective. And then we headed back down to camp. We had just enough daylight to finish making dinner. We watched a movie and we were pretty tired from the day, so we headed to bed. The camper did great. We were just comfortable enough. and the air conditioner was able to run until about 4 in the morning off the battery until that eventually died. It was outside, it was still about 80 degrees, and I think it was about 80% humidity. So being in the cooler 70-degree camper was a nice way to sleep compared to being outside in a tent. The next morning we packed up camp and wanted to finish checking out Izena before our ferry left in the afternoon. The first place we stopped at was the Mangyoku residence, who was relatives of King Shoen, who was the founder of the second Sho dynasty of the Ryukyu Kingdom, and he was born on Izena Island. And then, as is typical of Japan, we quickly found a vending machine where we got our morning cup of coffee. While driving around, we noticed some of these cute little floats used as decoration in some of these trees. And while we were checking them out and taking pictures, a local came up and started talking to us. There was definitely a language barrier. We had to use a lot of Google Translate. We showed her how to use Google Translate. She was definitely one of the village's older residents, as is typical with a lot of these smaller parts of Okinawa. Okinawa itself is considered a blue zone in that it does have a higher population of centurions, people over 100 years old, than most other parts of the world. Okinawa Island itself has gotten a lot of fast food establishments, a lot of convenience stores, and because of that, they do have now the worst obesity problem out of all of Japan. However, a lot of these smaller outlying islands don't have any convenience stores, any fast food, and so because of that, they do still have a very healthy population, lots of older folks. And this woman, we didn't ask her age, but if she's not already over 100, I'm sure she's on her way. She was very sweet. She showed us this cute little baby bird growing in her yard. Then she walked us across the street to her beautiful viewpoint that she had walking over the ocean. She told us about how every morning she walked outside, looked out over the ocean, and knew that life was good. She was curious on our camper, and so we showed her it real quick, and she mostly just made fun of our air conditioner, but that's all right. And she was even nice enough to take a picture with us so we could help remember her. After we said our goodbyes, we continued around the perimeter island. We did check out Okinawa Park camping ground, which seemed like an awesome spot to temp camp. There was plenty of shade, there were bathrooms and everything. We thought about camping there, but with our solar panels, we wouldn't have been able to get any power through the shade, which is why we decided to camp where we did. We stopped at a few more beaches and did some beach combing. And I don't know what was going on this beach, but there, for some reason, was a pig's head, a goat's skull, and a few jaw bones. So we picked up the goat skull, which we thought was pretty cool, and then found these other treasures as well. After we finished beach combing, it was getting pretty close to the ferry's departure time, so we headed on back to the port and decided to call it a trip. All in all, it was definitely one of our favorite weekends. These smaller islands around Okinawa are such a hidden gem. And we definitely plan on doing more trips in the future. So if you like this video, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out. And if you want to get notified next time I do post a video, hit the bell so that you can get those notifications. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, go build something.